Theodore Parker's life has moral significance because of how he chose to use it, to touch lives, to live justice into the world. Elizabeth, the cemetery caretaker's life, has moral significance because of how she chooses to live it, touching lives and living justice into the world. She seems to live from a soul-filled place, and meeting her was, for me, a sacred moment and an invitation to a soulful place within myself as well. And then, of course, comes the challenge. Am I living a life of moral significance? This is one of those big questions in life, one that as a thinking and compassionate person, I am compelled to ask. It is one of the questions that motivates me to seek out community, to share the search for the answer, to afford a place to live out a life of significance. It is said that ours is a faith of deeds, not creeds. If this is the case, and I believe it to be so, then I am called to reflect on my deeds, how I live my life, day by day. I am challenged to ask myself if mine is a life of worth, a journey of significance. Does my life have meaning and value? In asking these questions, I am reminded again and again of the importance of community, that I am not alone on this journey. We are all pilgrims of the sidewalk and parking lot. When we recognize that we are not alone on the journey, there is a quality of life possible that would not be so in isolation. This is an important reason for our coming together, this search for meaning and value, and the sharing of the experience and the wisdom gained. Here in this congregation, we come to share the moments of personal insight. We come to be held in love as we struggle with understanding life's challenges and circumstances, to explore the big questions of life. We come as fellow sojourners seeking to enact justice and find meaning in the world. Many of the key insights from my visit to the English cemetery present themselves here as we come together in the search for meaning and value. The fire of commitment, the call to work for justice, the invitation to vulnerability, the importance of vision, and the abiding need for patience. The fire of commitment, witnessed in the lives of Theodore Parker and Elizabeth, the cemetery caretaker, remind us that we are rooted in a history, a tradition filled with exemplars of lives lived with dedication and faith in the potential of human good and understanding. Lives lived with love and compassion as the compass and sextant. Love and compassion as the very fuel for that commitment. As individuals and as a community, we strive to be seekers of justice and agents of change. We ask ourselves if we are doing all we can, if there is energy enough for the great work that there is to do. We want to do this work in the streets, so to speak, though not there alone, for change requires advocacy and insistence, perseverance and patience. I mentioned patience a few times. This is the work particularly set by the Social Responsibility Committee. Of course, recognizing, too, the many individual and collective acts of justice-making. It is as important to advocate and educate as well as participate. Here there are so many examples of how we live out this dual mandate of social justice, to act and to advocate. Justice requires the fire of commitment and incredible patience. Today, following the service, there will be a social action circle to strengthen the work that is being done. All are welcome, all perspectives invited. This welcome of many perspectives is a hallmark of our liberal religious faith. It is also a challenge to be inclusive and to take the risk of sharing our perspective. It requires trust, both of ourselves and of each other. This is the work of building beloved community, of welcoming the stranger and acknowledging that each of us may feel the stranger at times. Yet here, there is the continuing possibility of welcome. It is a risky thing to open oneself, to be vulnerable. It is courageous to come into a new community, and it requires intention for the community to remain open to the other. There is ever the potential for greater understanding and acceptance of differences. We come here this morning, pilgrims of authenticity, opening and deepening to ourselves and each other. This is the vision we hold, to be a community open to differing perspectives, struggling for justice, seeking meaning, both supporting and challenging ourselves to live lives of significance, to be fellow pilgrims. We are on the cusp of re-articulating such a vision, and this requires opening to change and necessity for growth. The growth I refer to here is a quality of deepening our commitment and action. How this will manifest itself in the coming years is up to all of us. Finally, patience and insistence. There is so very much to be done, so much that could be done. I challenge myself and all of us as a community of faith and hope to be patient and insistent. Patient with each other. Patience with the systems of change that seem to move so slowly. Patience with ourselves as fallible beings. And I invite us to be insistent with each other, for others often see our gifts and shining qualities far more clearly than we can see them ourselves. Be insistent with this community to rise to our greatest expectations of what is possible for us. Be insistent as an active agent of justice in the world. As I continue to reflect on this experience, inspired as I have been by the lives that touched mine in the English cemetery, I recognize that the significance is visible when it is mirrored out in the world, and when I have patience to look at the reflection and gain the unexpected, rare moments of insight and worth. When I look in your eyes and see reflected there possibility and hope, then we can recognize life as a pilgrimage, a journey of significance. This understanding of a shared journey requires trust and hope. Here we find that. In each other's company, we find unexpected, rare moments of insight and worth. And I close with words from my hero, Theodore Parker, who said, "Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple all space, its shrine, the good heart, its creed, all truth, its ritual, works of love, its profession of faith, divine living. May it be so. As a beloved community, we support and sustain this congregation and each other in the many ways we give of our time, of our love, and of our financial resources. This morning's offering will now be gratefully received. And as the basket passes you, if you have a joy or concern resting on your heart, please come forward to one of the light stations and light a candle in silence. We will then have an opportunity for people to speak those aloud from their seats. The offering will now be gratefully received. We come now to tend the sacred bonds that bind our lives one to another, affirming that what touches one life affects us all. In these moments, we seek to widen our caring ministry by sharing joys, sorrows, and milestones in our own lives and in the life of this congregation. I invite you from your seat to call out that which may be resting on your heart. Bobby Childs. There can be no greater joy in a community than to welcome guests in our midst. If there are guests here this morning, I invite you to either stand and introduce yourself or just wave if that feels a little awkward. We have guests this morning. Let us now take a moment to reach out to encompass the wider world. There is so much going on in the world right now, as was mentioned. I'd just like us to hold the grassroots efforts that are happening right now. Is just it's very powerful, and that we just send our thoughts and energy there as well. That we also hold David Kato, the Ugandan human rights activist who was beaten to death as a GBLT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender justice worker. He was murdered this week. The Unitarian Universalist United Nations office is taking strong action, and the President of the United States has also issued a press release. Let us keep holding light where we can on these situations. May all that has been shared here strengthen and renew the bonds of this beloved community. In joy and in sorrow, in struggle and in success, may we together embrace life's blessings and withstand its challenges in the sacred hope that we might become stronger through both. Will you join me, please, in our closing hymn, number 295, in your hymnal. As I extinguish the chalice with these words from Thomas Merton, the geographical pilgrimage is the symbolic acting out of an inner journey. The inner journey is the interpolation of the meaning and signs of the outer pilgrimage. One can have one without the other. It's best to have both.